Imagine you're driving down the highway, and suddenly, the check engine light on your dashboard starts flashing. You do not pull over, pull out a piece of black tape, cover up the blinking light, and keep driving, expecting the car to be fine. That would be absurd. You know that the light is not the problem. It is merely a sentinel, a warning signal telling you that something is deeply wrong under the hood. Yet, when it comes to chronic, persistent pain, this is exactly what we have been doing for decades. We have treated pain as if it is the primary engine failure, rather than what it truly is, a system-wide warning light screaming that your metabolic health is in crisis. For years, medicine viewed chronic pain through a purely structural lens, a pinched nerve, a worn-down joint, or a bad back. But today, we are experiencing a massive shift in understanding. We now know that chronic, persistent pain is often the sensory symptom of systemic metabolic dysregulation. Your pain pathways are being continuously irritated, amplified, and maintained by how your body processes energy. Today, we are going to look under the hood and explore how fixing your metabolic health is the single most critical key to finally turning off that pain alarm. To understand why this is happening, we first need to define the root cause: metabolic syndrome. You might have heard this term, but at its core, it is a cluster of 5 metabolic warning signs: central obesity, specifically carrying extra weight around your abdomen; high blood pressure, increased strain on your blood vessels; high triglycerides, too many circulating fats in your blood; low HDL cholesterol, a shortage of the good cholesterol that cleans your blood vessels; elevated fasting blood sugar, an early sign of insulin resistance. If you have 3 or more of these markers, you meet the criteria for metabolic syndrome. Individually, these are metabolic bottlenecks. Together, they represent a state of metabolic instability that completely alters how your immune system and your nervous system talk to each other. Clinical data shows that if you have metabolic syndrome, you are much more likely to suffer from chronic back pain, fibromyalgia, migraines, and severe nerve pain. Interestingly, central obesity is the single strongest metabolic predictor of chronic pain. This is not just because of the physical weight putting pressure on your joints. It is because visceral fat, the fat deep inside your belly, acts like an active chemical factory, constantly dumping inflammatory signals into your bloodstream. This brings us to a crucial concept: metainflammation, short for metabolic-driven inflammation. We all know what acute normal inflammation is. If you stub your toe or scrape your knee, your immune system rushes to the scene like a fleet of fire trucks. It gets hot, red, and painful. But once the injury heals, the fire trucks pack up, the fire is put out, and the pain goes away. Metainflammation is entirely different. It is a slow, silent, low-grade fire that never goes out. It is not caused by an injury. It is fueled by a constant oversupply of nutrients and metabolic stress. Because your body is constantly dealing with excess sugars and fats, your immune cells are kept in a perpetual state of red alert. They continuously drip feed inflammatory chemicals. These chemicals, like tumor necrosis factor alpha and interleukins, slowly bathe your entire nervous system. They lower the activation threshold of your pain receptors, essentially making your nerves hypersensitive. Nerves that should only fire when you are injured begin to fire in response to light touch, gentle movement, or even nothing at all. The smoldering metabolic fire has primed your nervous system to stay in pain. Let's zoom in on how this metabolic chaos directly damages your nerve cells. It happens through 2 primary pathways: glucotoxicity, the toxic effects of high blood sugar, and lipotoxicity, the damage caused by excess circulating fats. First, insulin resistance. Think of insulin as a key that unlocks your cells so they can take in glucose for energy. In insulin resistance, your cells change the locks. Your body has to pump out massive amounts of insulin just to keep blood sugar normal, but your primary sensory nerves and the Schwann cells that insulate them are insulin independent. They cannot turn off the intake of glucose. When blood sugar surges, your nerves are flooded with glucose, triggering a disastrous chemical reaction known as the polyol pathway. This reaction causes sorbitol to build up inside your nerves, leading to cellular swelling and water retention. At the same time, this excess sugar binds to proteins and lipids, creating what are appropriately called AGEs, or advanced glycation end products. These glycotoxins stiffen your nerves, damage blood vessels, and trigger chronic inflammatory loops. But the most aggressive culprit is a highly reactive byproduct of sugar breakdown called methylglyoxal, or MGO. MGO is an absolute neurotoxin. In patients with metabolic syndrome, MGO acts like a chemical blowtorch on sensory nerves. It directly targets a specific receptor on pain fibers called TRPA1. Think of MGO as throwing chemical hot sauce directly onto the raw nerve endings, causing persistent burning, tingling, and hypersensitivity. Second, we have lipotoxicity. When your fat cells are full, excess fats are dumped into non-fat tissues, like your nerves. Saturated fats like palmitic acid overload the protective Schwann cells. These fats are converted into toxic lipids called ceramides. Ceramides act like biological superglue, completely gumming up the cellular signaling pathways nerves require to heal. Now, you might be wondering, why does metabolic syndrome make my entire body hurt, not just my feet or my back? The answer lies in the gut-brain pain axis. Your gut is home to trillions of bacteria. Healthy bacteria break down fiber to produce beneficial compounds called short-chain fatty acids, or SCFAs, which calm your immune system. But a diet high in processed fats and sugars causes a massive shift, starving out these good bacteria and allowing harmful gram-negative bacteria to multiply. These harmful bacteria release a powerful toxin called LPS, or lipopolysaccharide. Under chronic metabolic stress, your gut barrier becomes weak and porous, a condition known as leaky gut. LPS leaks directly into your bloodstream, creating a state of metabolic endotoxemia. This is where the brain comes in. LPS and other inflammatory chemicals travel through your body. They travel through your body, breach the blood-brain barrier, and reach your central nervous system. Once inside, they activate your brain's specialized immune cells, called microglia and astrocytes. When these cells are activated by metabolic toxins, they turn up your brain's internal volume knob for pain. This is called central sensitization. Your brain literally rewires its pain processing networks. Suddenly, normal sensory signals from your muscles and joints are processed as severe, agonizing pain. Your brain's default networks are hijacked, making you hyper-focused on internal discomfort. At the center of this cellular chaos is a fascinating microscopic alarm system called the NLRP3 inflammasome. Think of the inflammasome as a highly sensitive cellular panic button. Under normal circumstances, this panic button is carefully locked away. But metabolic instability changes that. It is a two-step process. First, the bacterial toxins like LPS prime the system. Second, the actual metabolic waste products like high glucose, palmitic acid, and reactive oxygen molecules from damaged mitochondria act as the final trigger. Once activated, the inflammasome snaps together inside your sensory nerves and spinal cord, triggering the release of massive quantities of pro-inflammatory cytokines, specifically interleukin-1 beta. This chemical directly forces your pain-sensing neurons to fire rapid-fire action potentials. Even worse, it triggers a form of inflammatory cell death called pyroptosis, which ruptures the cell, spilling more metabolic toxins and inflammatory triggers onto neighboring nerves, keeping the cycle of pain spinning indefinitely. So, now that we understand the science, how do we actually put out this metabolic fire and quiet the pain alarm? First, acknowledge that conventional approaches, like opioids, often fail. Opioids do not address the metabolic engine failure. In fact, long-term opioid use can actually irritate your brain's immune cells, making your nerves even more sensitive over time. Instead, the future of chronic pain relief lies in multimodal metabolic restoration. First, metabolic stabilization. We must stabilize your blood sugar and improve insulin sensitivity. Medications like metformin and GLP-1 agonists are showing incredible promise. They manage blood sugar and directly target and calm down brain neuroinflammation, turning down that pain volume knob. Second, multimodal pain management. We utilize a combination of non-opioid medications that target different pathways simultaneously, working in synergy with physical therapy. Third, dietary and microbiome rebuilding. We must starve out the toxic bacteria and feed the protective ones. Shifting toward high-fiber anti-inflammatory diets restores gut integrity. By treating metabolic dysregulation and pain as part of the same connected system, we stop chasing symptoms and finally address the source of your chronic pain. Remember, your persistent pain is not a life sentence. It is a sentinel, a warning light. By working together to stabilize your metabolic health, we can put out the fire, repair the wiring, and finally turn the alarm system off. Talk to our medical team today about your personalized, metabolically informed pain recovery plan. Thank you for watching.